It's his third championship appearance, and he is going to be playing this aggressive lineup. Once again, Tempo Mage wiped off the board because Languagehacker does have a lineup that can be vulnerable to.
Is that 100% ban rate for Tempo Mage every single matchup?
I just know that I haven't seen a Mana Worm yet.
I have not either. It's a kind of interesting stat that we have here. But yeah, Languagehacker, he is playing a lineup that is much more tuned toward beating control decks, but as he said in his piece, they are targeting control, but tuned to beat aggro. He doesn't have quite the anti-aggro lineup that we saw Tool play, which he used to dispatch Trunks yesterday. But it is still not quite a pushover for Trunks' aggro deck.
Yeah, it's actually quite strange when you consider Odd Rogue, which is known to be one of the more aggressive decks in the metagame for quite some time. It's actually one of the best anti-aggro decks too, because of how well it's able to outpace due to the hero power. So a complete justified ban on Languagehacker's side. Or rather, yes, on on Trunks' side, because he is playing the aggressive lineup. Let's go into Druid versus Druid to start things off here. Now, Languagehacker is playing Taunt Druid, and Druid has had middling results, but Taunt Druid is one that I'm focusing on specifically because it is the deviation from most Malygos Druid lists that we see at this championship.
Yeah, the most common version has been Malygos. Languagehacker is playing the less common version, but I believe the Taunt Druid typically has a bit of an edge in this matchup. Generally, they're able to build a board that is difficult for the Malygos Druid deck to clear repeatedly, and they are capable of boosting their armor up so that they aren't easily just blown up by Malygos combo. Yeah,
if you can get the Sleepy Dragons out, I mean, that's a board that is hard to even swipe with 2 Malygos. Yeah. You have 2 Malygos, the residual damage is 11. So you can still have a sturdy board afterwards, not to mention just the constant pressure if you're able to get Lich King into the pool as well as some of their big minions. It's going to really come down to, can Languagehacker get that pressure going? We've seen Taunt Druid with awkward draws. They get double Dragon Hatcher and then Master Gokarg and not really have a lot of early game plays. And then on the flip side, can we see Trunks line up the big combos? He already has Malygos and Flabindus Flute. I mean, that's already most of the pieces he needs to get going.
He has a lot of the burn here, or rather the burn combo pieces, as you mentioned, but the real key for both players at this point is ramp. Both players do have Nourish currently. Neither play with the Wild Growth, though, so they're going to be kind of on an even pace to accelerate their mana to start really implementing their powerful late-game game plans.
So it's a lot more of an honest start to the game here, if you will. Like, Druid, for a while, was known as an honest class outside of the ramp.
They still are. Try playing Odd Druid sometime, man. You feel like an absolute honest person.
No, I will not choose to play Odd Druid. Mainly because I feel like whenever I play Odd Druid, I just have the exact polar opposite result. Someone has to balance the win rate, Kibler, and you're on the opposite side of the spectrum because Odd Druid isn't a 70% win rate deck. It's more like 50, 51. That's because I'm evening it out.
Every single time I post a new version, I then immediately lose with whatever. It's the curse of the Twitter deck list, but
yeah,
or maybe the deck's just not.
You just going to
one of the two. I'm gonna blame the curse, but anyway. So yeah, Trunks here, picks up another solid card overall with branching paths to be able to draw deeper into his deck, but again, no ramp. Both players continue hero powering. Languagehacker with the first play of the game, with what I assume he'll drop this turn, the Ironwood Golem. Right. Those hero powers to his face, though, they have cleared off his armor, so that thing's not attacking anytime soon.
Yeah, I think this even pacing of Druid, a face Druid mirror match where you just basically attack and hit your opponent, there's nothing else to do, does actually end up favoring Languagehacker for a couple reasons. One, we kind of mentioned that it gives him more time to build the board, but two, with Trunks having such a full hand, Malygos Druid is a deck that really needs to also cycle through their deck very quickly.
It's true.
And it ends up becoming a problem if they have hand space issues. So that's also another reason why Trunks has to get this ramp out very fast.
We didn't even mention the fact that Languagehacker just drew Master Oakard, which is the single most powerful card in Taunt Druid. If you're able to play Master Oakard, you bring out Dragon Hatchers, you bring out potentially even just Hadronox itself, and just start generating an absolutely enormous board. That can run into the Mind Control tech we just saw Trunks draw, but even then, unless they steal exactly Hadronox, it can be difficult for them to really keep up.
I mean, I wonder if that's going to be on Languagehacker's mind. Maybe he doesn't want to play his Hadronox out onto the board, considering that he already has one Ironwood Golem on the board state already. So it does give his opponent an opportunity to steal his main win condition.
Yeah, I mean, that could be one of the ways Trunks can find a window in this particular matchup. But he's going to try to find something else with the branching paths into branching paths. Try to find more mana ramp. Does not. It's got a full hand. As you mentioned, the hand size could be a real issue because you really need to start firing off things like Ultimate Infestation for draw later in the game. But if you aren't able to use your resources up until that point, you can end up in a position where you'll just end up overdrawing. We saw this earlier with Rivius versus Lion King. And Rivius spent an entire game like really struggling with hand size issues, and it seems like Trunks is perhaps on the same path.
Languagehacker can play Primordial Drake to get some semblance of board control, and you do want to invest into your taunt pool pretty early on so that Hadronox gets much better. Does kind of stay that you damage your own minion, make it a little bit more vulnerable to spell stones. Not the end of the world, though. I mean, if your taunts end up dying, you'll most likely bring it back. And remember, Languagehacker does want to keep the board 2-3 minions or less until he can guarantee Hadronox dies. I mean, that might even make him not play Master Oakheart, wait till he plays Master Oakheart with the ability to naturalize his own Hadronox in case that happens.
Yeah, the obvious play for Languagehacker generally, Trunks here, before we get to Languagehacker's turn, has, again, kind of an awkward situation of, I got a bunch of stuff, none of it's very good right now. I need to play some of it. He wants to be able to nourish for cards at some point, I imagine. Looks like he's just going to nourish for crystals here to get it out of his hand. That's also a possibility.
Sure.
He ramps up to 10. All right.
Yeah. You could dump another card, too. I think one of his Spellstones upgrades.
It does.
Which allows him to continue to push cards out of his hand.
But he doesn't actually have, other than the branching paths, he has no card draw here. So it's a little bit of a strange situation. He does have the Malagos that you can pair with. Well, okay, well that draw for Languagehacker, the Oakheart means now he is going to get Ironwood Golem and a Dragon Hatcher. There is no risk of even that Mind Control tech taking the Hadronox. That's the crucial potential downside of that Oakheart, as you were mentioning. If Trunks did happen to have his one Mind Control tech, take your Hadronox. That means you have just the board you have now. You're not going to be able to continue generating them, but that Hadronox means it is completely safe to pull the trigger on Oakheart, and now Languagehacker, he has a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, when you say you just have this board you have now, it's like, well, that's still a really intimidating board.
You don't need that much more, right? And that's the big thing is that Trunks does have the Spreading Plague. He actually can't quite Spreading Plague plus Mind Control tech without using another removal spell. He could, for instance, play his Spreading Plague here to try to absorb damage from this board, then play a Spellstone on, say, Dragon Hatcher, and then Mind Control tech and try and take one of the big taunts.
Yeah. Still also do it in this order and Mind Control tech afterwards. There's only 5 minions are on the board. So.
Oh, I'm actually screwing that up. Never mind. He did need to do it in this order.
But I mean,
I was giving him one more spot on the board.
It depends on what he really wants. He could have saved Mind Control tech, but it's very clear that Languagehacker will be saving his Hadronox. For that, he's not going to be careless enough to just throw it on the board. And that's respect and recognition of what's important here.
Yeah.
Does unfortunately steal quite possibly the weakest minion on the board.
It is, in fact, precisely the weakest. the damaged Ironwood Golem even.
Yeah.
So now, Languagehacker, he knows that Mind Control tech is out of the way. There is only the single copy of Mind Control tech in Trunks' version of Malagos Druid, though there is the threat of Floop. If he were to just play out Hadronox, and no minion dies on his side, or rather, 2 minions don't die on his side of the board, he could theoretically end up losing his Hadronox to that Mind Control tech off of Full Business Floop.
Yep, and then of course, Druid also has Branching Paths in almost every deck these days, so Branching Paths with Malagos Druid still can all be used offensively.
Yep.
So Languagehacker should take this board relatively seriously.
It's a lot harder to use Branching Paths defensively when your opponent's board looks like this.
Yeah.
Languagehacker just has so much stuff in play that even a bunch of 3/5s aren't really going to do very much. There's 8 health, 6 health, 12 health on these minions.
I think Languagehacker, debating if he wants to trade into his Ironwood Golem, take a little bit more damage on his Drake, but it can't attack without armor, so he feels relatively safe.
Yeah, here, Trunks would basically have to use Branching Paths for armor in order to get the Iron Golem attacking, which means that he can't branching pass for attack. So it makes it much less of a threat than the Scarabs, which you could just double buff up anyway.
That's true. The armor does upgrade his Spellstone too, which is
true.
Nice. In fact, I think he's 1 hero power away from upgrading it before it gets to stage 2. So I think he could hero power and then branching pass for armor. And he does need to dump his hand, which is becoming increasingly difficult because of double infestation. It's something that we mentioned early on, like hand spaces. You want to cycle through your deck very fast.
Yep, there's the MC Tech number 2, and he steals. Oh, okay.
And that's a really big.
That is the best steal here, and it's still a tough situation for Trunks here though, because while he took the Sleepy Dragon that gives him a sizable board, he still is behind against the potential of Hadronox. He's not really pushing much damage. It does mean that he has an established defense for himself, which gives him more time, and time is frankly what Trunks needs in order to build up and be able to get to that Malygos combo and not die to the offensive push from Languagehacker.
Trunks spending his hand, branching paths. It's going to be held onto. And the important thing, too, is he also lost his second half of the combo with Flabindus Floop.
Right, he has to go for just a Malygos off a Twig most likely in order to get a big burst now, because there's no opportunity for Floop. But yeah, Trunks does have that branching paths, and that 412, that's actually starting to be a threat, because it has enough health and enough attack that it can start going into things with branching paths and not just dying. Lich King's a very good draw for Languagehacker though, because given that so many of his taunts have actually been stolen, this means he's going to be guaranteed to get back a Lich King off of at least his first Hadronox, and those Lich King cards can be very powerful.
Yeah, they could be game-winning. Languagehacker has so many good options. Doom Pact is it's okay in case the worst-case scenario happens, but he probably was looking for something better.
Yeah, it's a decent safety valve, but it's not a card that Languagehacker really wants to pull the trigger on. He'd love to be able to not burn, say, his cubes from his deck. But, I mean, this is frankly looking like a situation where, Languagehacker could need to actually have a board clear. So that Doom Pact could theoretically come up big for him. The fact that he already has Hadronox and the Witching Hour and a Naturalize in his hand means that he's not at risk of losing, like, at least the core elements of his combo.
And what to trade in? You can trade in the Mind Control Tech. Do you want to trade more of your board away to get rid of your opponent's taunts, which they want to die anyways, to go into the pool? Sometimes you help the Druid opponent by trading into their weakened taunts.
It's true. If Languagehacker were in a position that he wants to use his Hadronox this turn, you want to prevent him from being able to actually get those minions dead, so that at best those are damaged minions that stay in play. But it looks like Trunks is trying to clear things off.
It's a reasonable assumption to make too, because he's holding 9 cards. Your opponent just had a bunch of minions die like the Lich King, and your opponent most likely want to naturalize their Hadronox, and Hadronox was not pulled by Master Okard, so there's a lot of information you have.
Actually, an interesting situation here too, because Trunks has a full hand after that Ultimate Infestation. So this is a situation where Languagehacker may feel like, okay, well, if he doesn't have his key cards, I want to pull the trigger on my Naturalize now to have a chance to potentially burn those from him as well.
Hitting a Malygos would greatly reduce the chances for Trunks to make a comeback.
Frankly, if Languagehacker were to just burn Twig here, that's actually a very bad situation for Trunks, because he doesn't have the Floop available.
That's true. It's already a problematic situation. Swipe, Wild Growth, that one's not needed.
Keeping Swipe is good. He now has Moonfire, and Swipe, so if he is able to get a reset on his mana, he actually does still have the, I was gonna say, does still have the Florist, but now he doesn't. Now it is 100% in on being able to reset his mana with Twig. So that Florist burn, I was just about to say, he does have that too. Well, no longer. So this really does complicate the situation for Trunks pretty significantly.
I'm looking at Trunks' best method to try and deal with this board state. Branching Pass has been held for a long time.
It's also important to note, I think, that because that Florist burn means that he is left with the Twig, not only does the Twig require time, but also requires attacking. And Languagehacker's a board of huge taunts and likely will continue to have a board of huge taunts for much of the rest of this game, which means that it's difficult for Trunks, even if he finds Twig and has the time to swing with it, for him to stay alive.
Time waits for no one. What to do?
Branching past swipes is probably one of his best combinations to help clear a lot of his board state. I think dealing with the Lich King is also of a really important, of utmost importance. Committing his Malygos.
Right. Yeah, I think Trunks feels like he is in big trouble, and he is going to expose Malygos. This is the only Malygos he has available because there is no Fluke remaining.
Right, I like this because a Naturalize has been shown to from his opponent. So right now, with 14 cards remaining in his opponent's deck, it is probably the most likely he can have this Malygos stick if Languagehacker didn't have Obliterate or Doom Pact.
Right, there is a Doom Pact in the hand. Gonna Witching Hour into Doom Pact, I think.
Yeah, this is a fantastic combo.
Yeah, so this will burn 4 cards from Languagehacker, but will get a Hadronox to the board, kill that Hadronox, and kill the Lich King. Gonna go ahead and take 5 damage to keep a card in his deck by punching this down, I believe.
One thing to note as well is that this is only 1 copy of Witching Hour in the deck, so Languagehacker is hoping that this push will just be good enough to end it.
This is Oaken summons Cube, but gets Lich King, 4 dragons. And Trunks has no Malygos.
Yeah.
He has no hope, really.
This is just too big of a board. Languagehacker, even if he has Army of the Dead and it's a relatively weak card in this position, still has just enough with currently what's there. How does Trunks even go about fighting this?
He doesn't.
He could stall and hope that his opponent gets really weak cards, maybe pick up Naturalize and just stall out, but he's so much deeper in fatigue than Languagehacker that I don't even think that's a viable strategy.
I mean, frankly, just this board is not one that Trunks has any tools to deal with. Yeah, and he recognized that as well. There's no way out of that situation, and Languagehacker will win that Druid matchup in game number 1.
That's right. So a pretty big win here for Languagehacker. Kid back home, dedicate himself. Very wholesome player in general too. And then Languagehacker, he's still carving out his own legacy. He's still working up in Canada, has a real full-time job. And he actually, funny story, he thought that he didn't have to do any of the media days or rehearsals leading up to it. He's like, yeah, I just show up on Thursday and start playing, right? It's like, no. We will waste a lot more of your time by qualifying for the championship. Oh, it was very endearing in a way to see him like, yeah, I just show up and play, right?
No, we gotta get all those little nuggets out of you.
That's right. That's right. But you know, as most Canadians are, very polite and well-mannered, and he had nothing mean to say whatsoever about his opponents when we were filming him.
He did apologize though for.
Yes.
I forget exactly what it was. We like went into then a segment about how Canadians apologize for everything.
Right.
He had just apologized for something.
He didn't even realize it too. He said it was instinctive.
It was just it was just subconscious.
Like, oh, did I apologize? It's like, oh, did I apologize? I'm sorry.
Sorry for apologizing so much. But,
all right, so Death Rattle Hunter versus Malygos Druid. This does end up working out decently for the Death Rattle Hunter, but it's not as overpowering as you might think for the Death Rattle Hunter to just overwhelm the Druid with their Devil Soul Eggs or their big cube combos, and largely because Druid's really excellent at stalling out the Death Rattle Hunter, because they spend a lot of time trying to establish the board, and if Druid can stall just long enough, they often can win anyways through a single Malygos combo, let alone double Malygos. And with a Twig in hand, that's already a great start for Trunks.
Yeah, Trunks has a lot of the key cards here with that Twig plus Nourish, which he doesn't have any of the sort of big cards yet, except for that Alexstrasza. You know, being able to play Twig into Nourish, punch you into potentially just Alexstraszaing his opponent very quickly, that means that he won't have that much work left to do when he actually does assemble the combo. He doesn't need any sort of full combo. He's able to get that Alexstrasza and get some damage in after the fact as well.
Look at that face from Languagehacker. It's like, yikes, that's not what I really want to be seeing right now. Twig on 4, and the worst is yet to come when you Nourish ramp.
Well, and crucially, Languagehacker's deck does not include any way to kill that Twig.
Right.
Many versions of Hunter will play a copy of Gluttonous Ooze in order to find with tracking. Some versions also play Stitch Tracker find as well. Languagehacker, though, he is teched against aggro, as you mentioned, And he has those mind control techs, so he's looking to beat other matchups here and hoping the rest of his deck will carry him in this particular matchup.
The only thing about Trunks' situation is that he's got combo pieces. Two Moonfires, the Floop, and Alexstrasza. Granted, Alexstrasza is still a threat in her own right. But we have seen some Druids run out of gas, which could make Trunks more inclined to draw with his hand as opposed to remove. Like Rat, for example, as much as it's great to kill off a minion, Trunks might be considering if he wants to cycle that and let his opponent have that board.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot because Trunks could, for instance, just nourish for mana, drop Arcane Tyrant, Floop his Arcane Tyrant, and start just trying to set up to get a big Alexstrasza turn. The problem is that he doesn't have much else. He is missing the Malagos. He is missing any real way to stop Language Hacker's aggression as well, other than just throwing his own minions in the way. Infestation, though, he is no longer missing that key card. That's a pretty important draw for Trunks here. He's still a couple turns away from being able to cast it.
Wow.
That attack was interesting.
Yeah.
He decides to put the twig damage into the Devilsaur, and frankly, this is actually going to be pretty heavily rewarded for this, because now Language Hacker can't get a trade with one of these minions and then cube away the Devilsaur.
And instead, Language Hacker going to protect the Devilsaur and go aggressive. Realizes that Trunks, with 3 turns until the twig snaps, he doesn't have much time to fight back.
And this Grizzly is actually kind of a problem for Trunks because now he can't swing his twig without taking damage. The taunt gets in the way and really messes up his plan of trying to get that reset. Interestingly, the fact that he has this Arcane Tyrant in play too is kind of a liability because it means he gets 1 fewer minion from the Spreading Plague if he wants to pull the trigger on that. He can't actually just get it killed here either.
Also a good point.
So while he did set up for his opponent not to be able to get value trades with that dinosaur, now he can't kill it because of the taunt away. He doesn't get an extra minion from the Spreading Plague, and he just took 5 damage last turn. So he was trying to play ahead into one possible sequence from Language Hacker, but instead kind of had the worst possible scenario.
Time waits for no one.
Does this bump lead to anything meaningful for Trunks? He chooses not to. Master Shaw, a really powerful card when you compare it with the Spider Bomb. Is there any room for Language Hacker to do anything else here? Because we're looking at that cube for a while, but without any activator, that cube isn't as threatening as it usually is.
Interestingly, Language Hacker could just play Rexar here. He could bump it with his Grizzly. Rexar to clear this off, which gets the coast clear for that 5 damage from the Dino to go to face. Also gives him armor, which makes Alexstrasza much less threatening.
It's true. I feel like how Master Shaw does the same thing while developing the board, though. You Shaw and you can Spider Bomb, and then because Trunks didn't attack, you almost guarantee a kill on the Arcane Tyrant, so even if your opponent swipes the board,
I feel like you're in a position. I feel like you're in a position where your Master Shaw and Spider Bomb can both be valuable later, but it looks like he may agree with you.
I think if I'm Language Hacker too, I might want to just keep the Hunter Hero Power. I've just been pushing my damage a lot.
That's also quite fair.
Oh, but instead he's trading what looks like to be a trade on the Arcane Tyrant.
Yeah, he wants to just get that off the board.
Yeah. I mean, the mind control tech is scary too.
There is a single copy of Mind Control Tech in Trunks' deck, so he decides that he wants to set up to be able to have the Houndmaster available here. And oof, I think if Trunks just attacks here, he has to outsmart himself, right?
Right. But he needs to do his due diligence, excuse me.
All right, well, there's 11 on the board for Language Hacker here.
13, 14 from the Candle Shot. 13 from the Hero Power, 40 from Candle Shot. I can't see another damage point being squeezed.
Language Hacker does have that cube plus the Shaw, though. He could potentially attack face with the Devilsaur, play cube on Devilsaur, attack the cube into the Alexstrasza, or even do the same thing with the Grizzly.
The Grizzly, yeah.
Attack, say, the Grizzly to the face, cube the Grizzly, attack the Carnivorous, or rather the cube itself in, get more of these. Yeah, it looks like that's what he's going to do. suddenly bears.
Yeah, that was 5 damage went into the Alexstrasza, but Languagehacker again trying to deny the mind control tech potentially being faster.
One thing that's great about this play from Languagehacker, nothing on the board dies to Ultimate Infestation.
That's true
Going
too.
into the 10-mana turn for Trunks, in fact, a 20-mana turn for Trunks, Infestation doesn't kill a single thing on this board.
Without Moonfire. Trunks also has this very, not cringe. Sorry, I've been reading too much Twitch chat. Very fringe scenario of being able to double Ultimate Infestation. I've only seen it happen one time, but when it did happen, you might think that might be bad because of how many cards it burned, but it actually ended up saving them because of the 2 5/5s plus the armor they gained, plus all the cards that they draw, obviously.
Well, if he does get the reset here, he can cast now a pretty big Ferocious Howl and does have potentially Starfall, Naturalize, a lot of removal options available as well, plus those Moonfires for free. There is 9 damage on the other side of the board for Trunks. So he does have to respect, I think, a damage possible. I guess there's only a Candle Shot left that would kill him, right? There's 9, 10, 11. Okay, he's just going to fire that off. He's actually going to wait. All right, this is
scary.
This is safe for Trunks. There's nothing like a Void Ripper in Languagehacker's deck that he can really take advantage of this position with.
Yep. And Languagehacker can utilize his Hunter's Mark here to get back a little bit of tempo, protect his 3/12s. I think for Languagehacker, he also has to weigh how long does he want to hold on to this aggressive game plan. And that's kind of exactly it. Like the Death Stalker Rexar comes out here, you can choose to pile up his zombies. So you didn't even hero power beforehand. He just wants to invest the 2 mana now so he can generate a big threat that might even have charge.
No charge available there.
But Bear Shark is a problematic card for Druid to deal with.
It is.
Because
white.
Every part of the removal is targeting.
So that was the 4 cost. I believe it is the 6 health. Yeah, the Stegodon. So
Languagehacker loves the trades.
I think there that the thought process might be that he doesn't want to get, say, like naturalize into like comboed and not allow Trunks to
that makes sense.
Get the face damage in.
So Trunks can start things off with some draw possibilities. We have Wild Growth Cycle or Ferocious Howl to evaluate his game plan.
Ferocious Howl will bring him out of this sort of danger zone he's in at 9 life.
Oh yeah. And it's scary too because the zombies threat. You think about Stone Toe Spore plus the Beartide Hydra.
And there's another Naturalize.
That is nice.
He's really looking to find the Malygos, obviously, as well as potentially Florist. He does have the Twig already, so he could just Malygos by itself to get sort of the full-on combo. He can find Malygos and Florist with, say, the ability to get like a ridiculous combo.
Wasn't this Druid like in single digits life
he was
a
7
turn or two ago?
You can still see right there. He was at 7, now he's at 30.
And now he's back at full life.
Druids of Druidstone right here.
Ooh, none of these are particularly appetizing for Languagehacker. Usually in those situations, you tend to just pick the cheap beast so you can hope that your second half is redeeming.
I think that Trunks is kind of running out of armor now, though. He did just find Malfurion. So
yeah, I was gonna say, he just gained an infinite source of pretty steady armor game, but Malfurion quite possibly could be his last line of defense, unless he picks up another Spreading Plague.
Well, there is the fact that Languagehacker, is Rexar, the Death Knight now, which is very problematic for you to deal with. If you're just trying to armor up with Bear form from Malfurion, that doesn't really cut it when your opponent's playing 6/9 Bear Sharks.
Yeah. 9 is also a really decent amount of health, too, because you have to factor in how your opponent's going to play with the Malygos swipes. A Flippiness Floop has been used for board presence with the Arcane Tyrant, so there's no 11 damage swipe.
Trunks is taking his time here, but I think we're going to see the Death Knight come down.
I think the valuation is, am I bold enough to even go for the Poisonous Spires versus the Scares of Taunt? Scares of Taunt, guaranteed health, which I think ultimately is what he's concerned with. He just wants time. time to assemble his Malagos board swing.
There's also just a lot of cards that have been in Languagehacker's hand that could potentially make those spiders not very effective, like a Flanking Strike he just picked up, or potentially the Zilliax we see in his hand.
From the look of it, Languagehacker picked the Scale Worm with the Vicious Scale Hide, so he has the zombies to immediately charge onto the board. And Crackling Raise 'Em All now has what looks like to be Echo with the Hunting Mastiff. That can be really powerful as a finisher. You adapt that Bear Shard twice, give it Wind Fury +3 attack, and that could be game over. In fact, no minion development. That is so much respect from Mind Control Tech.
Yeah, Languagehacker. We did see him perhaps over-respect Mind Control Tech in a few instances yesterday. But here, he is in a very firm position of control, and I think if he, for instance, he did play into Mind Control Tech and had his Bear Shark taken, that could be a really rough situation if Trunks could back that up with Naturalizes.
Yeah, Trunks still just having the pieces, but not the full combo. 8 cards remain in his deck. Wouldn't blame him for starting off the turn, just cycling the Wild Growth, see what he can get instead. His Spellstone can remove one threat, Naturalize can remove the other, which still should put him in a relatively safe spot. Oh, the Nourish draw.
Dig. He's got to find something. Yeah, I feel like he recognizes, and I think rightfully so, that this hand isn't winning the game. He needs to find more. He needs to find Malagos. Still doesn't have it. 5 cards left in his deck.
Still has a cycle opportunity with the Wild Growth. And I think with his remaining mana, plans to Hero Power, because what looked like to be the case, he was just softening up the board so that when he draws Malagos, the swipe will be more effective and doesn't have to worry about swiping a minion.
He is at 35, but with that that Zombiest Crackling Razor Maw,
wow.
If there is, let's say he hit Wind Fury and +3 attack, that'd be 18 plus. He's
still be
not
off.
Quite, yeah, not quite the ability to end the game.
Katharina almost guarantees a King Crush, right? Because the 2 Witchwood Grizzlies
yes,
played.
I think. Oh,
oh wait.
No.
Apologize, it was the cube.
It was the cube, right. Yeah, well, with the play dead.
JK,
there's the
right.
king. And now, I don't know that...
It has to be Malagos almost this very next draw, unless it's Spreading Plague to stall for 1 turn. I mean, Trunks has 4 cards remaining in his deck. And unless I'm mistaken, and Trunks playing the second Spreading Plague, he has a 50% chance to either address this board or to stall it for a turn. There's also Mind Control Tech and Naturalizes and Spellstones to help him stall out. Languagehacker takes damage with Bear Shark.
That does make a swipe much stronger, potentially, for Trunks, if he does find the Malagos.
It makes it a lot better, because now... Oh, I guess maybe in his mind, Trunks has the Starfall as well.
Branching Paths.
Oh, that's a stall opportunity.
All right, well, especially with the Naturalizes, there's MC Tech, Naturalizes, and Branching Path that can give Trunks just a little bit more time here.
You can also remove a minion on the board first. So you don't want, say, the 3/5 Witchwood Grizzly that's already weakened. You can remove that, then Mind Control Tech.
I think he needs to Mind Control Tech first, because if he misses, say, King Crush, he needs to Naturalize King Crush.
You're right, you're right. So he might need that mana expenditure as well. Because the Hero Power plus Jasper Spellstone is an investment of 3 mana.
Right,
you might need,
it's just a lot, yeah.
You might need more.
And I think that if he's looking to survive this, he may be thinking that he needs the Branching Paths and Mind Control Tech and Naturalize, and you don't have the ability to fit in.
Okay.
Right, is he going to draw? All right.
He can draw into Spreading Plague, too. That was another opportunity.
Death is eternal.
Actually, this makes sense. Katharina is the least impactful minion onto the board.
He knows there's nothing left. He does take the smallest one.
But double Naturalize should keep him relatively safe. Hunter's Mark, double Adapt, still not going to be enough.
So he can potentially play 2 copies of that Crackling Razor Maw, because it does have the Hunting Mastiff stitched together with it.
Well, we're assuming that, of course, is his choice, and
I'm pretty sure
I don't know if there's a
pretty sure it was.
Yes. Thanks, production.
There we go.
Yeah.
Go team.
They say it takes a village to put on a Hearthstone event.
So he actually still would not have lethal, even with +3 plus Wind Fury.
Yes, he would have 21, and his opponent's at 27. So close, which might honestly be good. Actually, he can Defender of Argus? No, he would. He doesn't have a mana, excuse me. I was thinking of the 2 mana attacks.
That's +3.
Yeah.
Oh, Divine Shield, okay.
Board control. And that Divine Shield would help keep his Bear Shark alive through an AoE if he's able to clear the board.
It would have been +3 win if you put them both in the same thing. Interestingly. So this does mean Trunks is at 18.
I would like to see...
That's Malagos.
Oh, okay.
And there's the possibility of Malagos double swipe.
Yep, that's 18
and the Moonfire,
damage,
but there's not...
24 damage.
Yeah, he has 24. Language Hacker's at 32.
Right.
If he swings with the weapon... He could swing with the weapon into the Bear Shark, but that deals 6 to him. And then, I mean, he doesn't really have an ability to keep Malagos around for the following turn, because he has to assume there's a Hunter's Mark or a Spider Bomb plus a way to get it killed.
I was like, he could Dream Petal Florist, but then there's just so much pressure onto the board.
Right, I don't think he can survive this.
Yeah.
A tangled web.
The problem is that, yeah, because Language Hacker has a little bit of armor there, and, I mean, he also even has that, the Scale Hide attached to the Scale Worm, so he has the ability to preserve his own life.
He would have actually just preferred to draw Spreading Plague in this position, so he could have played, stalled out just a little bit longer. But here we go, double swipe, plus the Moonfire. That's 24, 27 with the hero power.
But that's not enough to actually kill Language Hacker.
But he has Ultimate Infestation, but he's gonna be dealing himself so much fatigue damage. Chooses to hero power instead for armor.
Yeah, and now we see there's multiple opportunities for Language Hacker to gain back life.
Yeah. He can gain back life, and Trunks is pretty much out of reasonable threats. I mean, Language Hacker at this point put enough pressure to make Trunks just use his removal in a suboptimal way, and now Trunks just has no way to win.
Right. Language Hacker has survived all of the burst by forcing Trunks into a position that he needed to use his Moonfire for removal earlier. He did not have the damage to finish things off.
I mean, I think Trunks also did a reasonable calculation, because if he, let's say his opponent didn't have Ziliax and he put Language Hacker down to 5, he would be at 14 life, and the fatigue damage from the Ultimate Station might have actually...
You get a draw then, though, don't you?
Yeah, it would have been...
I mean, it puts you in a position where maybe you can win.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting calculation, because I don't know the way that Trunks played it by armoring up if there's any way he wins.
Right, that's true. Also,
so
because...
if he punches his face, maybe he gets the draw with Ultimate Infestation, but by armoring up, I don't see a situation if your Malagos dies that you can possibly win the game. Jeez.
Almost completely gone.
Getting a little dark here, Frodam, but...
I'm just trying to be canon, according to the lore.
Okay. See, I don't really follow that there. So,
Trunks was the last of his kind, essentially.
Gotcha. And
he had to save the future.
or whatever, so okay.
He's but what doesn't kill him can make him stronger. So let's go into game 3.
He's gonna need some time to power up here, I think. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, frankly, this is actually very similar to Trunks' last match so far against Tatul, where in that match he played his Warlock deck. The first 3 games. He lost the first 2 of them. It was in game number 3 where he was finally able to pick up a win. And, well, he's in the same spot here, and he needs that win right now.
Yeah, and it's a little bit too predictable for Trunks here. It seems like what he ends up doing is just queuing the same deck over and over just because he wants to get that win with what he feels like could be one of his more vulnerable decks or one of his better decks, depending on how you look at it. But Language Hacker has been able to weather the storm so far, and Shudderwock Shaman still does have a game plan that's pretty solid against Malagos Druid if Malagos Druid can't get their hand going, which is what Trunks' hand looks like right now. It doesn't seem like there's much going on.
There is not. He does not have Wild Growth. He does not have Nourish. He does have Branching Paths, so he could dig a little bit with that to try and find those ramp cards. But right now, he has some removal cards, which he'd love to have against aggro, but those will not be particularly valuable against Language Hacker. One thing I do want to note, Language Hacker chose not to hero power. That was not oops, missed hero power. He is playing Shudderwock Shaman, the totems aren't very valuable in a matchup like this, and if anything can be a liability against Spreading Plague later on.
How long can this go on? How long can this go on?
All right, well, Trunks back to the drawing board, if you will, as he is trying to pick up. Well, I did emphasis with a very deliberate intonation.
If you will.
You know, for Languagehacker, it's pretty straightforward too from his side. Wants to draw comp pieces, but more importantly, one thing that I think Shudderwock Shamans don't get enough credit for is winning without Shudderwock whatsoever. And this early game tempo can put enough pressure for Languagehacker to find a way to win without having to rely on Grumble or Zola the Gorgon.
Yeah, even outside of your sort of infinite combo with Shudderwock and bounce effects, you can just be a mid-range Shaman deck if your opponent does not actually do anything to pressure you. So I believe that is a Spellstone that is 1 away. He hero powered twice, so he could hero power again to upgrade Spellstone, then Ferocious Howl to upgrade it again if he wants to. If he decides that he'd rather save his mana to see what he draws, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and fire off the Howl first. Maybe he wants to cast a Wrath here, because now his Spellstone is reset to the next upgrade. So if he just hero powers now, he'll have sort of missed the additional upgrade that he had available to him with the previous hero powers taking it up too. However, there could be a card he was hoping to draw here that he would have cast if he did draw it off of the Howl, but ends up just hero powering 10 armor total.
I think, you know, if he was able to get Wild Growth, I think that's a lot more valuable to play with your mana as opposed to upgrading the Spellstone, which is not going to be terribly useful.
Particularly in this matchup. You're not really playing against any big minions here. You know, it's only really Grumble that is outside of the range of a 4 damage Spellstone anyway.
Right. The previous matchup when there's Devil Swords. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, things are a lot different. But here, Trunks recognizes the most important thing is giving myself the 2 out of 20 to draw my Wild Growth and cast it right away.
That is not a very good Farsight outcome. Urshock's already as cheap as it gets outside of being free. You can see Languagehacker a lot more bold to extend out to the board. Doesn't care about mind control deck nearly as much. Or Spreading Plague, apparently.
It is a little peculiar that he chose to hero power for the first time going into the Plague turn. You know, Trunks can Plague now, and Languagehacker does have mind control tech, so he could take 1 back.
That's probably his logic. If he ends up Spreading Plague with the Arcane Tyrant, he has a chance of stealing a 1/5 taunt, which is pretty nice to help stall the board. Or just maybe picking up that 4/4. He even has a counterplay beyond that too, with Lightning Storm and a reasonable amount of attack on the board.
Trunks does find that Wild Growth 1 turn too late, even 1 draw too late off of the Howl last turn. Looks like he considering, gonna pull the trigger on the Spreading Plague.
Yeah, and it's pretty nice of Trunks to have that board, because if Languagehacker has what most Shamans would consider to be the best turn 6 play, which is Grumble, he would have a pretty decent board in response to it. Like say he Grumbles to get the Serenite Chain Gangs back because he wants to have more activations for his Shudderwock. That would definitely give Trunks a window of opportunity to add in pressure against the Shudderwock Shaman.
Languagehacker could choose to kill one of the 1/5s first and then play his Mind Control tech here to maximize his chances of stealing that Arcane Tyrant. Gonna go ahead and just fire it off right away, and gets the Tyrant.
Easy game.
All right, well.
Easy life.
That's worst possible scenario here, really, for Trunks. Lightning Storm gonna allow Languagehacker to likely punch through all of this, or at least very close.
Most of it, at the very least. Yeah, it's a good mapping route rather for Languagehacker to figure this out.
There is a swipe available to Trunks this turn, though, and he can use swipe Spellstone hero power to pretty much clear off everything, I think. I think there may be... But yeah, if you actually swipe Spellstone hero powers and uses his Scarab, I believe he can kill everything. There's 2 things he'd have to attack into. Yeah. He's going to go ahead and Wild Growth, though.
Yeah,
maybe he doesn't care about this board.
I don't think Languagehacker is that threatening with just this board.
A lot of times, you'll be sitting in a position and be like, okay, I need to clear this. And if Languagehacker were playing an aggressive deck, I think that would be the case. I think he'd be like, okay, well, I have to kill these. I don't want to allow my opponent to have all this pressure on the board. But Trunks, he has that wild growth that he really wants to get online so he can actually ramp up to his big stuff.
Another Saturday Night Chain Gang comes to the hand. That's definitely one of the key cards here for Languagehacker.
Earthshock, not many uses in the matchup, so does decide he just wants to take out that taunt rather than allow it to stay in the way. Malagos is the draw. And this is interesting because Trunks has this Alexstrasza as well with the Floop in hand. So if Languagehacker does just heal himself up in order to try and play around potential burst, it can potentially use Alexstrasza as, again, there's the awkward anti-synergy between Florist and Floop, because Trunks does have those two in his hand along with the Malagos. Mostly, I think Trunks is going to be looking to just dig, though. Even if he could, read Alexstrasza this turn, that might not be his priority. I imagine we'll see him dig with Nourish first next turn. For Languagehacker's sake, though, this is not too scary because there's no Florist that's been played so far. He's not in range of just getting Moonfired out if a Malagos comes down.
There's little time.
He's going to Zola Chain Gang, the idea of which is to ensure that you have as many shots on your Shudderwalk to duplicate as possible. And yeah, just going to go ahead and fire off that free Earthshock and Chain Gang once again.
Yeah, unafraid of the punishment from his life total of 15. It's not the break point for Malagos Druid. Trunks would love to guarantee the Florist on the Malagos this turn. It's just not guaranteed. It's the problem.
Gonna go for it though, and he will have a Floop on a Florist if that happens. So he will have a very good chance of having that hit. Yeah, does get the Florist though, and then I believe Trunks still has a minion in his deck awkwardly too. So if I think he still has the Mind Control tech.
Yes, his Mind Control tech he does.
So next turn, for instance, if you were to draw with Nourish and or Branching Paths, he still puts himself in a position where he can't guarantee the Floop on Malagos. So it's kind of an awkward spot so on multiple levels.
Right. Now with Languagehacker having Shudderwalk in hand, just needs that Grumble. He's already invested in Saturday Night Chain Gangs. Pretty much, he has that Zola in the pool too. That Life Drinker as well. Not really missing anything else. Not even hero power. So
Trunks, he can dig with this, try and find the burn he needs to use with that Malagos.
Yeah, things of Mind Control deck, you can just play it.
It's true. Yeah, that is true at this point. Ooh, that's double Moonfire. So piecing together the burn. He did use a swipe, so his burn total damage is somewhat limited. And he has also used Alexstrasza, so he's going to need to find some additional ways to get in some damage on Languagehacker.
And Trunks could draw one card. He can draw two with Branching Paths, but he's going to be floating mana if he doesn't end up picking up something meaningful.
The danger of Branching Paths is that if he were to hit, and I like this here, because he decides that he's going to commit the Wild Growth, but hold the excess mana. This lets him hero power, punch Languagehacker down a little bit, guarantee that he hits the Florist on the Malagos and doesn't have to worry. All right, well, Shudderwalk coming out right away.
He wants board presence because he saw the Dream Petal Florist. Right. He is very afraid of the possibility for Malagos combo, and he gets the Zola for Shudderwalk #2 to come into his hand.
With 3 copies of the Saturday Night Chain Gang haven't already been played, it's a very, very safe bet for Languagehacker that his Shudderwalk will go off, and he decides to take the risk. He doesn't need to wait until it's guaranteed with Grumble, and doesn't want to run the risk that Trunks just has the Malagos combo and is able to blow him up.
Okay. Mind Control Tech does come to the hand. That gives him a Spreading Plague Mind Control Tech option if he doesn't want to use Malygos Starfall in this position.
I don't feel like Trunks is in a position where he can afford to risk his Malygos. I think that he needs to have Malygos actually connect and be likely to either survive or end the game, because he's already used his Floop. He doesn't have backup plans. He's playing a version that doesn't have, like, say, the Lich King that some versions do play in order to give themselves more options in this sort of situation.
Okay. Spreading Plague and Arcane Tyrant, and he also gets to free up his hand space just a little bit in case he, say, needs Ultimate Station to finish the job as opposed to set everything up. Now back over to Languagehacker, who has another Shutterwalk ready to go. If he picked up Lightning Storm, that would have been potential for the game to end right here. Actually, can he do anything? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't really see a way for Languagehacker to really close this out. The Shutterwalk itself is a little weird because you know, obviously he is guaranteed to get more Shutterwalks. You can just keep the chain going. It's only advancing and making these Shutterwalks on the board, which, granted, you know, is powerful.
Very powerful.
But he's not actually, you know, without Grumble, not actually making huge inroads on Trunks' life.
Right, and things like Hagatha don't even clear like the board, really.
Right.
So I think this guarantees him another Shutterwalk in the hand, because Zola has only Shutterwalks to hit. Oh, that's funny. Mind Control Tech killing a minion because the board is too big.
Well, now Trunks is in a position where he's got to do something.
I'd say.
He can fire off the Malygos and Starfall, clear off the board, and potentially double Moonfire the face. But you know, there are these Shutterwalks that are gaining Languagehacker at least a little bit of life thanks to the Life Drinker. He's only gaining 3.
So he can Mind Control Tech a minion, steals one of the healthy ones.
Yep.
And now it's a big board for Languagehacker to deal with. 2 Moonfires to the face. Force Languagehacker to deal with half his life. Actually, a little bit lower than that because of the attack with the Florist. Still very threatening.
It is, though. You know, Languagehacker's at 18 still. You know, this is, well, now it's at the hit 15. He is representing the threat of lethal on board, but there's Life Drinker, there's Mind Control Tech coming off the Shutterwalk as well.
True.
There's the Crumble. This is an interesting spot.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he can't just play Shutterwalk here. Because if he does play Shutterwalk, then he will just, unless he steals Malygos, I believe he just dies. And even then, with Infestation, he's in some trouble. So he's going to go ahead and Hex into Hagatha. He's up to 20 now. Okay, Malfurion represents potentially some repeated damage.
Right.
He could Malfurion Punch, get in 12. He's going to go ahead and Infestations, draws the rest of his deck.
Yeah, I think he wants the max amount of options. He has Swipe, I believe, remaining in his deck as well. Another Ultimate Infestation.
6 life left for Languagehacker.
And the 3 minions happen to be out of Mind Control Tech range. But he does have Glacial Shard in the mix.
He does. He has
and Hagatha.
2 shards in Hagatha and Life Drinker.
No minions discount.
There's a Swipe available for Trunks, a Infestation available. So the Shutterwalk, if the freeze goes off on the smaller ones, and if he doesn't freeze the 5/5 with Shutterwalk, I think he dies.
Well, another scary thing too is Shutterwalk could also misfire, and that's his like last line of defense.
Well, he just needs to not die. That's the thing. Is Languagehacker really just needs to not die. Trunks has no cards, so if you can survive, this, and you can survive, you know, the burn damage he has in hand. Well, it's actually even scarier because there's Malfurion.
Right.
All right. Well, it is Shutterwalk. I mean, frankly,
he summons Shutterwalk first.
Freezes the 5. We see a sigh of relief from Languagehacker. He knows he lives through the turn because he froze that ghoul. And that we see 9 life for Languagehacker. That frozen 5/5 is the difference between living and dying for him right here.
For now, I mean, Malfurion and Spellstone, Hero Power of the Face still should be enough to threaten a lethal for the following turn, but there's another Shudderwalk waiting.
There's 4 Shudderwalks in play and a Grumble in hand.
Yeah, the Grumble is also really big too.
That freeze was absolutely the game, I believe, here. I don't see a way out for Trunks.
What about clearing the board? Can we do that?
If you clear the board, what are you clearing the board with, even if you can? And then there's just another Shudderwalk that comes down.
There's Swipe, Spellstone, Double Naturalize. That does clear the board. Your opponent can't Shudderwalk or Grumble the board back. Shudderwalk will have to go off again. It could miss. Oh no, it can't miss the 5/2 because it kills it with Hagatha. Huh, you might be right. I think that's it. I can't really find a way for Trunks to get himself out of this position. I guess the nice thing is because Shudderwalks damage themselves with Hagatha's hero battle cry, it'll kill itself as well if it's played one more time.
I think the big thing, frankly, is Trunks just needs to hope that there's no Grumble there. There's no way for Languagehacker to just get through. He's going to try and taunt up, try and kill enough this board so that he thinks that at least he can maybe connect again with this punch and a swipe. But even then, there's not enough damage because of the life drinker. But we see the Grumble is going to be enough to come down and give this game to Languagehacker. You see a sigh here as he's going through the motions, connects to the face. And that is the nail in the coffin here, as that's all the Shudderwalks in the world.
Oh, and a healing rain for good measure. Just in case. He's saying, you know, there is some weird possibility that maybe something goes absolutely wrong that I'm not accounting for. And Trunks is in fatigue. He's out of combo damage. Malygos Druid is going to fall 3 times. And with a complete sweep over Trunks, that is going to be Languagehacker surviving to move on to the decider match.
We see the animations are going to take their time, but there's no more time for Trunks in this match.
Yeah, I think he's just swallowing the pill that was handed to him. Trunks concedes, Languagehacker survives, and another member of China falls.
Yeah, and we heard Trunks said he just hoped it didn't go out before the top 8 like the 2